Player ratings then. Southampton 2, Everton 0. An absolutely dreadful performance to end Everton's unbeaten run in the Premier League. No fight, no intensity, no energy, just nothing. Really, it was an absolute waste of time for Everton fans and for Everton Football Club really to even turn up today. Let's get straight into it then. Jordan Pickford, I've gone for a 6.5 for Jordan. Probably could have been a little bit higher, to be honest. I don't think he was at fault for either goal. The defence was awful today. It was absolutely shocking. And the second goal that we conceded did take a little bit of a deflection from Godfrey Sigurdsson as well. Some maybe could have argued that Jordan Pickford should be covering that side of his goal, but it was deflected, and the first one was fired straight across goal, and James Ward-Prowse shouldn't have even been in that situation anyway. He made a couple of okay saves as well, one from Romero just before the opening goal, and I thought he'd done okay today. He's definitely not in the limelight, and he's definitely not one of those players that I think a lot of people will be criticising tonight. So I've given Jordan a 6.5. Luca Dean, I've given him a 4. Excluding the red card, which we'll talk about in a second, I thought Luca Dean was poor today. Really, really poor. Probably one of his, if not his worst games in an Everton shirt. Defensively, he just got absolutely ripped to bits all game. He was at fault for the first goal, allowing James Ward-Prowse to cut across him far too easily. Don't get me wrong, I think the midfield were completely bypassed for that goal as well, and Michael Keane let the ball go under his legs. But Luca Dean was poor for the entirety of the game for me. The red card isn't a red card. Let's be perfectly honest, it's not a red card whatsoever. It's accidental. There's no maliciousness. There's no intent to hurt. It's not serious foul play. It's just an accident, but it was always going to be given. The media have been in the ear of the referees all week, saying as soon as Everton put in a dubious challenge, send them off for it. But other than that doesn't excuse a poor performance from Luca Dean. So he gets a 4 for me. Michael Keane and Yerry Mina, I've rated them both the same again this week. I've given them a 5, marginally better than Luca Dean, but again, still far too easily to allow the ball to come into the box. Even before Southampton opened the scoring with their first goal, they had about 3 or 4 chances where the ball was just put into our area far too easily, and they were allowed far too much space. And if they'd have been a little bit more clinical, they'd have probably been 2 or 3 up before James Ward-Prowse puts them 1 up. And Michael Keane and Yerry Mina didn't have the greatest of games today. Both of them, I thought, again, like I said, struggled positional wise. Sort of improved in the second half. Everything that sort of come into their path in the second half they dealt with well, but other than that, again, I think it just wasn't good enough whatsoever, was it? It was far too easy for Southampton to play the ball around. It was far too easy for them to get into our midfield, and it was to get into our box, and it was far too easy for them to create their opportunities. So I've given both centre backs a 5 today. Ben Godfrey a 4. I feel sorry for Ben Godfrey, to be perfectly honest. He's a young centre-back playing out of position who was given no help whatsoever today by any of the centre-backs, by any of the midfielders, no help by James Rodriguez. And again, some people will say, James Rodriguez's job isn't to do that. But when you've got a young centre-back who's coming in for his full debut for the football club in the Premier League against the side that do play quick football and they play counter-attacking football well, and you're putting him at right back and you're giving him no support whatsoever, he is always going to struggle. Southampton targeted that right-hand side of our pitch for the entirety of the game. Ralph Hasenhüttl has said to those Southampton players prior to the game, this is a young lad playing out of position, go and put every ball on him. And he struggled. He was caught out of position about 5 or 6 times in the first half an hour. On the ball, I thought he'd done okay. I didn't really have any issues with him on the ball. He didn't give it away an awful lot. He was breaking forward a couple of times, and he also made a couple of darting runs back to win it back. But positional wise, he was caught out far too many times. And again, I don't necessarily put all of that onto Ben Godfrey because I don't think he was helped whatsoever today, but he struggled nevertheless. Allen a 5. I thought Allen, it's a difficult one about Allen because for the first 4-5 games of the season, he looked absolutely unbelievable. Didn't put a foot wrong whatsoever. He looked brilliant. He was so quick to every ball. He was throwing challenges in. He was everywhere. But since he picked up that knock in the game against Brighton, obviously he went off in that game. He played against Liverpool. He had an atrocious first half. Okay, he come into his own in the second half a bit. But today, against Southampton, I thought he just struggled. He wasn't really, covering every position in which we're used to Allen doing. He wasn't really getting himself involved too much. A couple of bad passes. I thought in possession of the ball today we were poor, and considering Southampton had the majority of the possession, when we had the ball we should have been doing better with it, and we weren't. We were giving it away far too easily. We were making it far too easy for Southampton, and I thought Allen didn't really help his case today either, so I've given him a 5. Decore, I thought he was slightly better. I've given him a 6. I thought he done okay in the second half, obviously, before he come off, and he sort of was picking the ball up in okay areas and nicking the ball back in the right positions as well. But again, positional wise, he was struggled at times, on the ball in terms of his passing. It was poor at times as well. Our midfield was just completely bypassed today, and it was a very similar midfield performance to the one against Southampton 3 or 4 months ago towards the back end of last season. The only difference being is that we've signed 3 new midfielders who have been an absolute revelation to Everton Football Club so far, but it didn't work today. We were bypassed completely once again, and they just had the majority of the ball, and even when we had the ball, we done nothing with it. James is 6.5. I think he was trying his absolute hardest to create as much as he possibly could. The one thing that really sort of nullified James Rodriguez's game today was the lack of Richarlison on the left-hand side. Alex Iwobi just isn't anywhere near as good as Richarlison. I don't think Alex Iwobi's a bad footballer, but I also don't think he's as good a footballer or anywhere near as good a footballer as Richarlison is, to be honest. James Rodriguez, for the opening 4 or 5 games of the season, was always looking for that over-the-top ball to either Luca Dean or Richarlison, and either one of those players would either put a first-time cross into the box, or in Richarlison's case, he'd bring it down, he'd use his feet, he'd get past his man, and he'd get himself into a goal-scoring chance, or he'd put the ball across for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Iwobi just receives it and just takes far too many touches and then ends up coming back. And, you could tell that was nullifying James Rodriguez's game quite heavily. He wasn't massively involved. I think he played the last 15 or 20 minutes with an injury, to be honest, because we'd used all 3 substitutions and already had 10 men, so we couldn't take him off, which is a massive worry as well. But I've given him a 6.5. Sigurdsson a 5. I thought, other than the chance in the first half early on when it was 0-0, when he hit the bar, by the way, that was a fantastic opportunity, brilliant play by Everton and a really good effort. But I thought, other than that, he didn't really do much. He put his foot in every now and then, didn't really win the ball back. It was half-assed effort from Gylfi Sigurdsson, the same half-assed effort that we seen towards the back end of last season, and that was what massively worried me today. It wasn't necessarily losing the game, because I knew we'd never go the entire season without losing. That was ridiculous to assume that we would. But I always thought that if we did lose a game of football, there'd be a bit of fight, there'd be a bit of passion, and there wasn't today. There was nothing. So I've given Gylfi a 5. Dom a 6. He worked his arse off, but he had nothing. He had absolutely nothing. I don't think he had more than 10 touches in the game, to be perfectly honest with you. Again, like I said, he runs round, he works hard, he was jumping up, he was trying to, make himself a nuisance, but there was nothing to him whatsoever, and he was completely out the game. We probably could have done with another striker to come on and add something different, maybe a striker that would pick the ball up and run at defences and force opportunities, but we didn't have that on the bench, obviously, and we won't have that on the bench unless Ellis Sims gets a call up. And then Alex Iwobi a 5. I thought the news about Iwobi's performance is I thought he started the best Everton player, to be honest. The first 10 or 15 minutes, I thought he looked like the brightest Everton player on the pitch, but then it just tailed off quickly. It wasn't even like he gradually become worse, or he gradually faded out the game. It was like going from the top of a mountain and then just falling off completely. It was like he just sank. It was a dramatic downfall for Alex Iwobi today. He went from creating chances and getting in the right positions to just being, he just may as well not be there. He was poor, but he wasn't the only one who was poor, to be fair. I've given him a 5. Anthony Gordon off the bench a 7. Thought he looked direct. He wanted to pick the ball up. He wanted to get at players. He wanted to he wanted to sort of break them down and create opportunities. He couldn't do that an awful lot because nobody else seemed interested, but he wanted to do it. Fabian Delph a 6. Don't know. Did he touch the ball? Don't know. Did anyone notice? And Bernard a 5. Considering Bernard come on at half time and obviously was the player that Carlo Ancelotti brought on to say, you know what, you run at these, you create opportunities. He's just not up to it, is he? I'd be looking to move Bernard on in January, to be perfectly honest. It was clear he wanted to leave in the summer. His agents wanted to move him on. His agent wasn't happy that he stayed at Everton. And he's not putting in the performances to scream he deserves to be, to have a place at Everton Football Club. There's a reason as to why today, 6 games into the Premier League was the first time we'd seen him in the Premier League for Everton Football Club this season, and that was because he's not up to it, and he was given an entire 45 minutes today to flip the game on its head. And I'm not saying that's easy, and I'm not saying that we should criticise him because he didn't do that, because neither did anybody else, but he doesn't bring anything to the team that nobody else offers. He just doesn't add that extra dimension that we need. So and Carlo Ancelotti, I've given him a 7 or a 6, 6.5 for Carlo. I don't think he was too much to blame. He put out a strong team, but we were just atrocious today. Listen, hopefully it's a bad day at the office. To be fair to Southampton, they played very, very well. They come out and they kept us at bay straight away. They controlled the game, they controlled the passing, and they created opportunities and put them away. Like I said, let's hope, fingers crossed, that that's a one-off performance and that's a performance in isolation, and we go out against Newcastle next week and we get the 3 points and we just sort of forget about this one. But there's not many positives to take from today whatsoever. It was an awful performance, and yeah, it was one that we want to be forgetting quite quickly. Let me know your thoughts on the player ratings in the comment section down below. If you have enjoyed the video, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Big thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.